Hello everyone and welcome back to the third part of my Cosmos C# tutorial series. This time we'll be taking a look at how to use the file system. The timestamps will be available as soon as I can figure it out how to, but without wasting any time, let's get into the video. So as you can see, I have already pulled up the official Cosmos documentation on the right side of the screen. We are going to follow the instructions step by step on how to get the file system up and running in Cosmos. And on the left side of the screen, I have pulled up the demo project from the previous videos. We are going to work in this project. So our first step is to initialize our file system, and to do so we are just gonna copy this line of code right here. This one said it has to be placed before the beforerun function, so we were just gonna place it right here. And we also need this line of code right here. This one will actually register our file system. We are just gonna paste it inside the beforerun function. This register VFS function also has a lot of parameters. By default they have true and false values. The first one is to whether you want to display all the information about your file system, so like all the partitions, all the disks mounted, all the available free space, all the clusters, so like all sorts of technical data about your file system. By default I used to set it to false because in my opinion it looks ugly a bit, but I will splice a screenshot of how that looks like if you leave it true. And the other one is to allow the reinitialization of the file system. I've never used it personally. I would suggest we shall leave it false by default, but I assume that what it does is to allow the user to reinitialize the file system. So we don't need that. I think we'll just leave it like that. After we have successfully initialized our file system, we also have the ability to format our drives, and either the documentation or mine version is outdated, but for me, instead of going through this, it looks something like this. It says for me it's format partition instead of their format disk naming, but everything else is the same. You type in get disk instead of register VFS, and then select the first drive, so drive number 0, and then type in format partition, and then you select the partition. You usually want to select the number 0, and since only FAT32 is supported, you want to format it to FAT32, and you also have the option to do a quick format. By default it's true, so by default it will do a quick format, but if you don't want to do that, you can also set it to false and it will take a lot longer. But with us, we are just gonna leave it like this. And now finally we can move out from the before run function and we can get into the run function. So what we are going to do first is to write out the available free space and have a code right here to do that. So we're just gonna paste it in and we're just gonna run it. So as you can see, it's writing out available free space in bytes, but I forgot about that the run method is actually an infinite loop, so it's just writing it out infinitely, so we have to fix that. And as you can see, it wrote out available free space right here, and it also shows the file system. Then we can also write out the type of file system we have. So to do that, we just copy this code and we are pasted. What this does is you call this function and you are going to request data from the 0th drive, which is your hard drive, because the first one is your CD drive. So bear in mind that if you want to access your CD drive, you have to type in the number 1 instead of 0. and then you just write it out as a string. So if we build this, we should get this onto our console. And as you can see, it writes out file system type is FAT32, and it's writing out the available free space again. And as long as I keep hitting any key on the keyboard that is not a character key, for example enter, it will do it over and over again. And when we boot it up, as you can see, it tries to create a file, but in my case, since I tested it before, I already have that file, and it writes out the content of that file twice, and then it writes out the free space, and if you press enter, it says the file system type is FAT32, and then it says we have one file in our main directory. And to list out all the folders in a specific directory, in our case the root directory, you just have to copy this code right here, but be careful to not copy all the code because we already have this file list variable. So just grab this and paste it in here, and don't worry, you will get an error, and that's because there was a semicolon misplacing. So just do this, what I did, and it will solve all the problems. But before we were to run this, we have to keep in mind that we formatted the drive, so there's no folders to list out. So to create a directory or a folder, you have to come in the before run, or you can do this in the run or anywhere else. And same concept as you were to do it in a file. So like create a, like that, and this code will create a directory for us, or if it already exists, it will tell us that it didn't create one because there was already one beforehand. And as you can see, when we booted it up, it created a test directory, and now if we press enter and then enter again, it says that we have a test directory. And then you can also delete files and folders. I will show you how right now. So if you want to delete a file, then you just do file.delete and then the file name. And if you want to delete a folder, so like directory and then the delete, and as you can see, it has two parameter options. The first one is the path to the directory. The second one is whether you want it to be recursive. Now what this means is if you have subdirectories and files in that folder, it will delete them as well, as long as you have another folder and another folder inside repeating over and over again. So I definitely recommend to leave the recursive option to true, because you will never know whether you have a folder in there or not. But for now, I don't want my folders to be deleted, so I'm just going to comment it out, both of them, because I don't need it now. And at the end of the video, I have to put a disclaimer that no matter how hard you want to try it, do not run this on real hardware because it could mess up your data and or potentially destroy your drive. So my best advice is do not try it at all. And of course there are some limitations to this file system. For example, you can't name your file longer than 16 characters, and you will always have to use 3 characters as your file extension. So it can be longer than 3 characters and can be less than 3 characters. And that's been it for this video. I know it wasn't the best, but I'm still trying to improve my skills. Also, I'm really sorry that I made you guys wait for this long. I just had a lot going on that needed to be sorted out. I don't know when the next tutorial will come out, but I hope it will be sooner than this one did. Thanks for watching.